Hello friends, I'm Navina and I'm reading from the June 1982 issue of Chandamama. This is a Vikram Vetal story. The Super Spy. Dark was the night and weird the atmosphere. It rained from time to time. Moaning of jackals and eerie laughter of spirits were heard at intervals between thunderclaps. Flashes of lightning showed fearful faces. But King Vikram swerved not. He climbed the ancient tree again and brought the corpse down. However, as soon as he began crossing the desolate cremation ground with the corpse lying astride on his shoulder, the vampire that possessed the corpse said, "O king, are you after anything that will give you some magical power? Let me narrate to you a relevant episode. Pay attention to it. That ought to bring you some relief." The vampire went on. King Amar was much desirous of gaining recognition as an ideal ruler. Once a hermit who was ill took shelter in his palace. The king himself nursed him with devotion. The hermit recovered his health. "My dear child, here is a gift from me," said the hermit as he handed over a lump of crystal to the king before his departure. The crystal had a miraculous power. It could work as a super spy. If the king remembered a person and looked into the crystal showed to him the person's mind. The king rejoiced at the gift. He was sure that it would be now easy for him to penetrate into the minds of his officers and find out who were faithful to him and who were not, who liked him and who disliked him. He could rely on those who liked him and rule the country in an ideal way. That should make him famous. Days passed. The king preserved the crystal with great care. If someone brought an allegation against the other, he found out what is in the mind of each from the crystal. Accordingly, he gave his judgment. Beforehand, the king consulted the minister in all such matters. Now the minister felt ignored. He got annoyed with the king. Suddenly, one day, the king imprisoned the minister. The courtiers looked at one another in stunned silence. They could not make out why the king should punish an able minister. Thereafter, the king was seen looking sternly and suspiciously at his courtiers. Another day, he burst another bombshell. He ordered all his courtiers to be thrown into jail. The courtiers were mostly noblemen who exercised great influence on the people. The people felt not only surprised but also aggrieved at their fate. There was restlessness in the kingdom. The king decided to suppress those who protested against his action by employing his army. But before that, he wanted to feel sure about the faithfulness of his commander. But what he saw in the crystal was distressing. The commander was secretly negotiating with another king to dethrone him. He decided to dismiss the commander and take him prisoner. In this matter, he wanted to take the crown prince into confidence. He looked into the crystal with a desire to know the crown princess's mind. What he saw was maddening. The prince was thinking, "Father is growing crazy. Should I not declare him insane and take the reins of administration into my hands?" The king gave out a shriek. "Throw the commander and the crown prince into jail," he shouted. His order was carried out. But whom to talk to thereafter? He paced up and down the palace corridors till late in the night. Then he did something unexpected. He summoned the crown prince and told him, "I am renouncing the world. I will spend my days in the forest, ascend the throne in the morning, and rule the kingdom in a just and fair way." He ordered for the acquittal of the minister, the commander, and all the courtiers. He left the palace before it was dawn, but only after smashing the lump of crystal. The vampire paused and then demanded of the king in a challenging tone, "O king, the crystal was meant to help the king in his work. Is it not surprising that it brought him bad days? Why did the king destroy the crystal instead of passing it on to his son? Answer me, O king, if you can. Should you keep mum despite your knowledge of the answer? Your head would roll off your shoulders," answered the king forthwith. King Amar was blessed with a power which he did not know how to use. Although he meant to be an ideal ruler, his idea was that only those who adored him were good people, and that was wrong. It is this mistaken idea that made him imprison the minister. He must have found out that the minister was annoyed. Secondly, he did not stop to think the minister was unhappy with him because he did not let the man do his duty. His mistreatment of the minister naturally terrorized the courtiers. He threw them into jail because he must have found out from the crystal that they had begun to hate him. The commander was afraid that his turn will come next. Like the prince, he must have thought that the king had grown crazy. It was likely that he was desperately seeking another king's help to save himself. The king became conscious of his folly when he learned through the crystal that even his son was thinking ill of him. He realized that he was incapable of ruling the kingdom, what to speak of ruling it ideally. Out of remorse, he renounced his position and left for the unknown. How could he give the crystal to his son after what it had done to himself? Smashing it seemed to be the only sensible course for him. No sooner had the king concluded his answer than the vampire, along with the corpse, gave him the slip. So, friends, don't you think this story tells us about how too much of a good thing can become a poison to us in the long run? Thank you.